Hey, I'm Dave, and you're listening to another episode of Dying to Listen podcast presented by the Disc Golf Dyers Guild. Today, we have someone very pointy. Michael Spikes from Spike Disc Dyes? Did I say that right?
Spikes, but close.
Spikes. Spiky. All right. Well, welcome, and thank you for joining us on this little podcast of ours.
Yeah, I'm actually excited to be talking to you about this. It's been a little bit of a wet dream.
I'll take that as an honor, and thank you very much. I feel like I'm just some guy talking to some people. I'm like, who wants to listen to this guy? But enough about me, more about you. I'm assuming you play disc golf.
A little bit. I get out as much as I can, which is about once a week.
When did you start playing disc golf?
So I guess like many of us who dye discs and play these days, I'm a COVID golfer. I found it right in the middle of 2020, I think. So we're in 23 now. Yeah, just over 3 years.
Like, how did you discover disc golf?
So I for a long time I've been looking for, or I had been looking for some sort of like athletic outlet. Again, like a lot of us during COVID, we probably gained a lot of weight, didn't really get out much at all. And I had a buddy who was like, he said that he found this cool little sport. He's not very good at it, but if I wanted to come out and throw a few rounds, that I could join him. Thought, yeah, it's about time I kind of went outside and did something. And I joined him. Quickly, like we all do, quickly fell in love with it, and it has since then quite literally taken up like 90% of my headspace.
Yes, I see you also got quite the collection going on back there as well.
Oh yeah.
I guess besides, not getting fat, why do you like disc golf?
It was love at first sight in a way. I throwing a disc. So first of all, I am hyper competitive and a little bit of a perfectionist. And like, I did a little bit of research before I went out and just threw a piece of plastic, like, oh, there's a pro scene. I wonder, like, I mean, I can throw a Frisbee. I don't know, like 150, that's gotta be pretty good, right? That was about twice as far as I could actually throw it when I first got out there, it turns out. But I was seeing that pros were, throwing it 400, 450, 500. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. I can get out there and probably get close to that. And I didn't at all. And I actually kind of got a little upset at that with myself. Being as competitive as I was, I dove a little bit into, looking at types of discs and forms and things like that. And once I actually started picking up a little bit of distance, I just like felt more in love with it than I ever could. Second to that has got to be just being outside and getting to explore a bunch of places that I honestly never would have been. Like there are parts of towns that I would never have gone to that I've discovered cool little brewery here and there, a nice little restaurant, like just neat little things to get me out and about.
Where are you located?
So I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. I'm about, south of Jacksonville, which is halfway between St. Augustine and the city. If you are familiar with Northeast Florida for any reason.
Nope. But now I am. I want to get us into this thing, but how is the courses in that Florida area?
Okay, so this is something that I am frustrated with not for anyone's fault, not the fault of anyone, but I actually thought that I had a pretty good little scene down here. Within a 40-minute drive, I have 4 courses. Well, I'm going to say technically it's like 7 courses because one location has got 3 pretty big courses on them. But 4 locations to play disc golf. And that's not a lot at all. And I thought I had it pretty good. I got buddies up in Atlanta. There are a bunch in Atlanta. But pretty soon I'm going to be moving up to Minneapolis. Yeah, for work. So quite a big move being a guy from the Southeast. And curiosity got the best of me, and I opened up UDisc. I'm like, I wonder what disc golf. Like, I know disc golf is incredibly popular up there, but like, nothing prepared me for just seeing my screen littered with baskets
Yes.
on the map. But anyway, the courses that we have down here are actually incredible. You get to play year round. Florida, especially Northeast Florida, has so much land that unlike Georgia, which is where I play some other, like around Atlanta, where land's not as readily available, obviously. So we have a 24-hole course by me. That's my home course, Four Palms. It's incredible. And there are four rotating par fours over 500 or 600 feet. So it's not small by any means. And we have New World that's got I think 3 courses on there. One of them being a professional level course that they held a pro tour event maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And then a couple others I've got a mix of pretty decent par 3s and 4s. So it's not bad by any means. It could certainly be worse.
Well, good luck coming up here. Enjoy the winters.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm actually kind of scared.
You'll be fine. See, you can play disc golf in the snow too. Just stick a ribbon on there and you're good to go.
I'm going to do it one time, and I'm going to do it just to say that I've done it, and then I can almost guarantee I'll never do it again.
You never know. Never say never.
Well, so the only reason I do say that is because I had the first time that I went up to Minneapolis, it was early January, and it was 0 degrees without a wind chill. And I had been to Colorado a couple times, skied, like been to Breckenridge, and before COVID, I used to travel quite a bit for work all around the East Coast. Been to Wisconsin, so like I'm no stranger to cold, just obviously not used to it.
Mm-hmm.
I get up there and I'm like, my ski jacket, a pair of jeans, like, a little ski mask to keep my face warm, like that'll be enough, right? No, man, just walking 2 blocks just to find like some restaurant to eat or just somewhere to drink. I wanted to die.
Well, I hope your work is paying you good amounts of money to suffer.
Yeah, it's worth it for sure.
All right. So why we're here, disc dyeing. Obviously, you disc dye. When did you start disc dyeing?
Strangely enough, it was within a week of me actually playing for the first time. My buddy, again, he had been into it a little bit more than I had at the time. And he was living in Atlanta, so I didn't really get to play with him or be introduced to the sport until he'd been playing for 3, 4, 5 months, whatever it is. So while he's down with me, he's like, hey, have you seen this thing where people put like pieces of art on discs? And I'm like, no, what is that about? You just like, I don't know, you get a Sharpie and draw on it? And he's like, yeah, some people do that, but there's like, I don't know, some like powder you can get, and you just like just mix it with a little bit of lotion and just like throw it on a disc and do whatever. And I was like, I could spruce up a couple of my own discs doing that. That seems like a pretty cool idea. He showed me one that he had done. It was a I'll never forget this. It was a Shocked Pikachu stencil. And it wasn't good by any means, by the standards we all have now. But like I looked at that and it looked incredibly perfect, and I'm like, oh, I have so many ideas. What, like, this is going to be incredible. And so this is the same guy that introduced me to the actual sport, introduced me to that, and yeah.
That's awesome. I hope you thank him for the addiction that he gave you.
It's bad. We were actually we were just up at USDGC. Got home last night, and I hope that we get to do that for many, many years to come together.
That's awesome. Yeah, like I mentioned to you, I'll be going to the Pro Tour Championship this coming week, so excited for that. But what do you remember the first disc that you dyed and what method you used?
Yeah, so actually this is pretty neat. I have it right here, and it's an old lightweight Leopard 3 that I just bought at one of our local pro shops. And again, it's not very good for the standards that we have, but I was looking at this about 2 months ago, and I'm like, I don't throw leopards anymore. especially like not a lightweight one. I would just it wouldn't be good for me. Am I gonna sell this and just just go buy something else to dye maybe? And I was like, the nostalgia just hit me like a truck. I can't do it. So anyway, I have this, and it was a lotion bed, like straight, like just no dye in the lotion, just lotion on the ultimate disc, and I had mixed up some dye poly, red and black, and Gatorade bottles, and just got a dropper and just dropped it randomly around, swirled it a little bit, and I was like, okay, that's pretty cool, and put it in. So just an extremely easy little lotion bed was the method.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't think I've heard of that exact specific method, but back then anything goes.
Yeah, exactly. And it led me into finding a couple cool techniques that I don't really use anymore because I feel like there are better ways to do it, but it gives a good smoky effect to it. On my Instagram, if you scroll down it, which shameless plug that is going earlier in the podcast, unexpected, Spike's Disc Dying on Instagram. My first couple posts have a Georgia Bulldog stencil, a Brave stencil, and this disc, and it just gives it like a cool little smoky is the best way I could describe it. So a non-distracting background for some cool stencils.
Do you remember the second or third disc that you've dyed?
Oh yeah. So I lost both of these discs, and I think they'll always be my favorite that I did dye. The first one was a Jurassic Park logo without the Jurassic Park, so just like the T-Rex skeleton with the circle, little trees behind it and everything. And I even think I put because I back when I first started playing, I was like, there's no way I'm ever going to remember the name of a disc and what the actual numbers are. So I dyed the numbers on there too. And it was the first stencil I ever did, and it was not good. It was not very good. I think like any of us that have tried our first stencil kind of blindly, bleeds everywhere. But the point got across. It was mine, and I loved it. No idea where the disc is anymore. Oh yeah, I do. It's in the pond at one of the courses, like right in the middle. It's never gonna come back. And then the second one was actually, again, Jurassic Park. I'm a huge Jurassic Park fan. It's the Velociraptor skeleton that they show like right in the first opening scene. Yeah, everybody knows that if you know Jurassic Park. And this kind of leads me. That is the dye that really led me into getting into stencil dyeing, which is what I love to do. I got frustrated with again, perfectionist, hyper competitive. I got frustrated with the fact that my T-Rex disc didn't come out perfect, and I thought, I'm doing something wrong. I mean, I see other people that are doing incredibly clean work. Like, what could I be doing better? And I had just joined the Facebook group, the Disc Golf Dyers Facebook group, and Keith Limpa had just posted some dye that he did that was, of course, incredible. And so I reached out to him, just a private message, and I was like, "Hey, man, I've never really done this before. Like, the first one kind of turned out trash. Like, what am I doing wrong?" And Keith, being the incredible human being that he is, helped me along the way. Asked questions that I never would have thought to know to ask. Answered all my questions, was extremely helpful, and that was this Velociraptor dye was the first incredibly clean dye job that I'd ever done. And so my first two stencils went from not so great, bleeds everywhere, to incredible, and like, I'm never ever going to stop doing this. Yeah.
So did you hand cut those first stencils?
No. I'm the type of person, if you haven't heard me say it yet, perfectionist. But I'm also really hesitant to just, drop $250 on a Cricut. But again, going through the Facebook page, I was trying to figure out how do people cut these. did a couple searches and was like, okay, you can get like a cricket, a cameo, or you can hand cut them. So I tried hand cutting them. And I made about 3 slices before I said, nah, fuck that. I can't do this. It was too time consuming. It's just too much of a pain. So we have, at the time, my son was less than a year old. So just under a year. And there were a couple cool ideas my wife had about, making stickers with his name on it and doing a bunch of other things. And so I just, hey wifey, what do you think about getting a cricket? You've been saying you had these projects you want to do, like you could do that and I could use it for a couple things, So I managed to talk her into it, and I think she's used it about 10 times in the last 3 years. So that was definitely for me purchased selfishly.
Yeah, I feel like that's how a lot of us have done. It's like, hey, wife, we could make these amazing things. Then it just kind of sits in your dye lab. It never uses it. Mine now. Well, that is awesome. That obviously your stencil is your thing, and that Keith was willing to share his knowledge, take time out of his day to explain to somebody how to do something. And that is awesome. And, that's what I'm trying to do with the Dyers Guild, is just help spread that knowledge and make it easier for people to, get some amazing results so they're not as frustrated. But if anybody's listening, don't be afraid to reach out to me, the Dyers Guild, or literally anybody, because we would be more than willing to help you out.
That is single-handedly the reason that I have stayed doing this as long as I have. Between the people who have helped me out, for no reason other than they're just incredible people, to me wanting to pay it back as much as I can. Like, if anybody, I'm pretty active on Reddit, and pretty active on Facebook, and anytime I ever see somebody like asking a question, I really try to, I come from a background of teachers too, so I really know how to get into the weeds of getting people to kind of get the wheel turning about thinking in the right direction. And I try to push them to figure out what they need so that they can start thinking for themselves instead of asking blind questions. So that part is incredibly rewarding for me. But the point of this is just, this community is just so incredible. I've only ever seen 1 or 2 people not share their methods for their dyes, which I don't fault them for. It's their style, and they make a lot of money doing that, and they've got an entire business centered around, so I can't fault them for that at all. But everybody else has just been so awesome that it draws me back every single time.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and it's like, it's one of the better best community in my mind to be in. So that is neat. Mm-hmm. So back to this dyeing, I have some questions about your stencils. I guess okay. The first question I have is, what vinyl do you use for your stencils?
Oh, Oracle 651. I've used Oracle 631. I've used Crickets, and I've used a couple others. And always went back to 651. Again, there's another suggestion that Keith gave me, because I was using, for the T-Rex I did the Cricket vinyl, and it was just miserable to work with, not very palatable or anything. And so everybody knows Oracle 651 when people say it. And then the next question that inevitably comes up is what color and what type. And the answer to this question, this is a hill I'm going to die on. Matte black is the only way to go, in my opinion.
I love you.
I know. Thank you. Unlike the glossy vinyl, matte it's a little bit more stretchable. You can work with it a little bit more, and it doesn't, like, the bubbles don't stick and just stay where they are. Mm-hmm. And I use black. I actually don't even know if they make another matte, but I love having when I dye a disc and I have my black next to the black vinyl and my other colors next to the black of the vinyl and the black that I have, like it just gives it more. It actually gives it less vibrancy, I feel like, which makes the colors come out a little bit duller. But when every time I pull it back, I'm like, oh, I fucking crushed it. Yeah. So matte black.
Yes. No, I like matte black as well. I like black because then I can see the color of the disc when I'm weeding it. And I also use it as a reference for when I do my black stencils to see how black how black it is on the disc. So that's nice. They do make matte white, which is, I think, the same consistency as matte black. But yeah.
I'll second your when I dye, I stencil and lotion painting. I go in by color. I go like I just pick a color that I want to dye next and pull all of the black vinyl off that color, and just the discrepancy between the black and the white on there just makes it so obvious for me to never ever miss anything.
Yes.
So yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Unless you miss pulling up a piece of vinyl. That has happened.
Oh my god, dude.
Yeah.
So many times.
What mixture and method do you use for getting the black on your stencils?
So I hot dip. I have tried, actually before I even knew about hot dip, I would lotion paint them. And as soon as I figured out hot dip, I was like, I'm never going back to that. Why would you? And I've tried Jory's, denatured alcohol painting, which I can't get the black that I get with hot dipping for some reason. But I hot dip with it is now a combination of Eye Black and Dark Dungeon, but it had in the past been just a Dark Dungeon mix, which it's not as good as Eye Poly Black, but it's damn near close.
Well, Dark Dungeon, the worst black ever. The only reason I say that is because Jory named it, so there's that.
Oh no, I didn't realize he named it.
Yeah. So I always make fun of it. A question that I forgot to ask, which is literally the most important question of all time. Do you put the vinyl on top of the disc, or do you put the disc on top of the vinyl?
This is another hill I will die on. Put the disc on the vinyl.
Not sure if I like you as much.
I know. I'm sorry. We were this close to being perfect for each other.
Yes.
I have tried... So I'm not quite sure how you cut yours or even put a transfer tape on, but I'll do assuming I need not the edges dyed black, I'll do like a 12 by 12 piece of vinyl, center that on the Cricut design space and cut it. And then just over the design, over nothing else, I'll put the transfer tape on. And one time I was like, I keep hearing about this, like I'm gonna give it a shot. Put the disc down, ripped up the vinyl, and I'm trying to like finagle this floppy piece of vinyl onto the disc, and I ripped it up, balled it, threw it away, and I was like, I'm never touching that again.
Huh. All right. Well, I guess it's okay to be wrong.
We can't all be perfect.
No. But honestly, I actually do both, and it depends on the disc dominess, and sometimes it's hard to find the center of the disc when it's face up. So that's really the only times.
I did have a problem with that. I found out that I don't have it up here with me, but in my garage where I dye, I have a piece of excess vinyl, like a 3 by 12 piece that I've cut little 0.01 or 0.02 inch diameter circles in, and I will pull those up and put them smack dab in the middle of the disc on the back, so that the glare won't fuck with the I use a laser pointer method. That way there's no glare on the disc, so you can actually see where the disc is. And I also will cut about the same size circle onto the design, so I know where to. So I'll pull it up before I put the transfer tape on, so it's a big you can't miss a spot when you center it, and you don't have the glare on the back, and that has helped tremendously.
Yeah. I do the cut on the vinyl, but interesting take on sticking the little piece on the disc so you don't have any glare. Interesting. Nice. What is your laser setup like?
Oh, so I have pegboards in my garage that I hung up. Put tools and other shit up on top. And I had tried about 3 different ways to put up a laser. Not on the it never even occurred to me to use the pegboard. I have a tripod for a camera. I tried dangling that down, but then I couldn't get the vinyl to not hit the tripod and get my arms under the disc and all that. I tried under a shelf that I have in my garage that I could zip tie the keychain to. And then one day I'm just I'm trying to figure out how to do it, and I look at my pegboard and I go, I bet they make a little attachment that's just like a giant rod that comes out. And motherfucker, they do. Home Depot just went and got one of those. So just the keychain hanging on the peg, dangle it, let it rest for a second. That's how I do it.
All right. It's always interesting to hear people's laser setups because they're like freaking MacGyvers.
It's always different.
Yeah.
And when I was trying to figure out how to center a disc, Keith told me about the laser thing. And we didn't have any rigs that we could buy to help set up with any of this stuff. People always just MacGyver their way into it. But when I move, I'm going to be renting. I'm not going to have a pegboard setup, so I'm definitely getting one of your setups.
Yes. And I was going to do a shameless plug.
Yes.
We do have the Disc Align Pro 3000. It's basically, you can buy the actual thing or you can get the plans, but it's super easy to make. It's just made out of PVC, and it's multi-purpose. So you can stick a laser in there. You can stick your camera on there so you can take some video of you working down. You can hang your heat lamp on there if that's your jam, but yeah.
Ooh, smart. I never even thought about hanging a heat lamp on there.
Yes. It's multi-purpose. Do you weed on the disc or before you put it on?
Ooh, on the disc.
Okay.
Great question. And again, I've tried many things, and I've found things that work really well and things that don't work so well. This is another one that didn't work well for me. I actually love the idea of weeding off the disc. But whether it's my Cricut or the blade or the vinyl or who knows what, but every time I would ever try to pull it up, I'd always pull up unintended pieces. And it was just more effort for me to make sure that I didn't mess up the stencil than it was to put it on the disc and then start weeding it.
Yeah. The backing paper doesn't have a whole lot of tack, and sometimes I've noticed with the Cricut, if you have sharp corners, it doesn't cut completely, and it just leaves a little tiny tab. When you're weeding it, it's yoink. Oh god, diddly darn it. But yeah, do you have a preferred weeding tool?
I don't. I mean, I just use the tweezers that I came with. People have got the extra super duper pointy 3000 ones from Amazon, and I've actually had extremely great success with just the standard ones from Cricut. They are getting dull. I have dropped them numerous times on tile or concrete. So I'm gonna have to do a little bit of research on what's next because I'm not paying Cricut prices for a pair of tweezers. Yeah. But until then, those work extremely well for me.
Yeah. You can check out the supplies page on the Disc Golf Dyers Guild for all the supplies that you may need.
Shameless plug.
Yes. That's the entire reason for this podcast.
I know. That's why we're here, right?
Duh. I guess I was going to say if you want to go through your process for hot dipping, but we kind of did that already. Do you use heat before you hot dip at all for anything?
I don't. I usually before I hot dip, no. I just throw it in the pan and let it sit for. It's usually about 30 minutes. But I usually like to multitask, and I'll do 3, 4, 5 discs at a time. And so the 30 minutes that I typically hot dip for is a perfect amount of time for me to tee up the next disc. Magic eraser it a little bit, weed whatever's left to weed. Uh, Again, another key tip. I guess I do heat it up to make sure the vinyl isn't gonna come up.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
That is what you're alluding towards. Okay.
To reduce bleeds on any embossed stamps.
Yes. I'm sorry. I thought you meant to speed up the hot dip process, which I have tried. Can't do that. So I guess we'll go into two things real quick. Both of these were Keith tips. The first is I do float it in hot water for 30 seconds and press down all the corners with the credit card. That has been 100% success ratio where it could be. You know, there are some stamps that are so deep you're never ever gonna not have a bleed. Looking at you, Casta.
Yeah.
But it's been an extremely huge success. So like as I'm hot dipping one disc, I'm prepping the next one by floating it in the hot water and pushing out all the bubbles and washing it. What I thought you might have been referring to was another Keith tip was he has a dual pan set up for his hot dips. He'll float it in hot water and still remove the bubbles. But after that, heat up the disc in hot water, hot dip it, reduce the time to like a 5 or 10 minute hot dip overall, which does work, but that's way too much maintenance on my end to actually do. I'm more of a set it and forget it kind of guy.
Gotcha. After you put it in your hot dip, do you just let it sit there, or do you lift it up and check it multiple times?
I don't check it, but I do lift it up. So I did kind of learn that it's only going to get so black at some point. So if it's another 5 or 10 minutes over what it was going to be, then great. It's black. There are times where I realize that my mix is way too light, and so I got to remix some black into my Gatorade bottle. But I lift it up. So I do 3 intervals at 10 minutes. I do, and the purpose of that is to re-roll the disc in to get any bubbles out. But that's all it is.
Yeah.
And God forbid there are any bubbles, just a little bit of denatured alcohol on it, it covers it up.
Yeah. That was another thing I was alluding to is, do you do that to reduce the bubbles? And you do.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
After you hot dip, then what do you do?
So I don't know what's going on, and I don't know if it's just me or maybe Pro Chem has changed their mixes, but some of my black is leaching further into the colored spaces more than they have in the past. So I say all this because I used to, as soon as it's out of the pan, let it cool down, wash it, rip it up, start throwing some lotion mixtures on there to do a little color in the circle type of dyes. But recently, I feel like I've had to let them sit for a day or two, just to help get with multiple washes in there too, multiple hot washes in there, just to get any residual dye out of there. Because I will have, especially my Caribbean is the worst culprit of this. It almost fades. It doesn't keep the crisp black lines. It's almost like it brings the black into where the blue is, and it's frustrating. Oh, so frustrating.
Huh. Interesting. Like, can you explain that a little bit more so I understand?
Yeah, I wish I had a disc here that has it. I wonder. This one you can kind of tell. I don't even know if it's going to be on the camera. This is one of my Pokemon ones that I've been doing recently. But on the camera, can you see how that black around the Caribbean is not as crisp as like the inside of these other colors?
Yeah.
Almost. So I don't know if it's a component of, I have a water softener, and I also have hard water being in Florida. So a component of either one of those things. I changed in the actual powder material, but nobody else is having this problem, so I don't think that's it. The humidity down here in Florida, who knows? But it's almost like, have you ever hot dipped 2 colors, so like back to back, black and then another color?
I have not.
Okay, so Well, then that was the only other way I could describe it.
Well,
So, like, good.
I was going to say that blurring, that only happens next to other colors.
It is, well, it only happens next to my. Actually, I haven't put Caribbean next to another color recently, and if I have, I wouldn't notice the blurring because it'd be next to a blue to create some sort of shading. So I'm not quite sure.
Would you consider it more like a drop shadow per se, rather than blurring?
I don't know what a drop shadow is.
Where it's not like necessarily blurring from black to whatever the next color is. It's like you still have a line, but it kind of drastically fades off. But anyways,
it's almost like the black leaches into the blue. Not so much a blur. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And that only, I guess.
I know it's a me problem. I'm doing something wrong, and who knows what the fuck it is.
This is fascinating me. We must figure out why.
Somebody help me out, please. If you ever have this and solve it, let me know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm just trying to think if I ever had that issue, and I don't think I have had that issue. Yeah. Just trying to think. So after I do my dipping for the stencils, I typically wipe it down with 91% isopropyl alcohol, kind of a light coat to get most of it off. And I really haven't had any issues like that.
So that was another thing that I did kind of learn, I got a little spray bottle with 91% isopropyl. And I do that 10%, 25% of the time on the dyes I do, only because it's another step, and I don't use Caribbean all the time, which is the worst culprit. And it's not every color. I'm trying to remember if there are any other ones that really, really make it miserable. But if I use Caribbean, that's how I help mitigate it. It's not perfect though, and it barely mitigates it. But
yeah, the reason I do that is I just find the isopropyl alcohol just like enough to take it off that I want, but not fuck shit up.
Yeah.
Because I can tell after I hot dip, you can tell that there's extra dye on the disc. It's kind of got that goldish dark tan sheen in some areas. And I want to make sure I get rid of all that so that doesn't stay there. So if I'm doing like acetone painting, that it doesn't like start, the excess dye doesn't get in or accidentally get in and get black everywhere.
So let me ask you a question about that.
Yeah.
When you do it, I have had the problem where the isopropyl alcohol will, I do it in my sink, I spray it on my disc, and it'll come up under the rim. And so I have to quickly get some acetone on a Q-tip and just try to clean up the black that came up under the rim to the alcohol. Do you have that problem?
No, because I just put the isopropyl alcohol on a paper towel, and I just rub the paper towel around.
Oh my God, why didn't I do that?
I don't like saturate it and make it all wet. I just enough to get what I need off.
Do you have problems with like your corners of your vinyl coming up because of the paper towel rub?
No, I try to be very gentle. I don't scrub the shit out of it. I just be kind of, and if it's like really detailed stencils, then I'm like,
yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Maybe even soaking a paper towel in it and then just pushing it down on it might help.
Sure. I think if you can, rubbing it helps. Yeah. But yeah, well, you'll figure it out.
Okay, round 2, starting tomorrow.
Yes. So yeah, that is that. I think we've covered pretty much everything we need to know about hot dipping. Awesome.
Such a fascinating topic.
It is. It really is. It's I don't want to say it's complex to scare people, but it is pretty involved with everything that you need to do to get a stencil. So,
seconded.
Yeah. How do you get your colors on the disc?
So I strictly lotion paint, and I do that for a couple reasons. But it mostly comes down to the type of dyes that I like are very color within. What are those like color the number things that kids have? Like every unique color's bordered by a black line in a way. So I don't like to paint with denatured alcohol or any liquid, especially acetone, because I can't get an even color on it. It's very like you'll see the brush strokes and everything, which is great for a lot of methods, but not personally what I kind of want out of it. But with lotion, I can control my mixture ratios a lot better, I feel like. And I can control my sit times easier because they're not as saturated as denatured alcohol. They don't sit as well. So I can get a range of hundreds of colors from a mix of any color by messing with the saturation of the mixture itself and the set time. So like if I want like an incredibly light pink, then I'll I'll take my typical like pink mixture, put in a little bit of blank lotion, mix it up real quick, put it on the disc, and let it sit for 30 seconds. So that covers about 90% of my stencils.
So do you have, I would guess your base mixture is already pre-mixed up then?
Yeah, so I do have little 2 ounce and 1 ounce bottles, and that really just helps me keep it consistent. So at least another huge advantage to the way that I kind of like to do my dyes is minimizing the variables. So same exact saturation of my colors in my diluted mixtures, same exact concentration of powder to lotion. And I found it actually quite literally impossible to get powder and lotion in the 1 ounce bottles without having the 2 ounce bottles. So I have both as a refill and it's just easier to mix in the 2 ounce bottles.
What is your mixture / ratio for your lotion dyes?
Oh man, this is something I should have pulled up, and I do have it printed out downstairs, but the on the ProChem website, you know how they have that outline for all the mixtures?
Yes.
I follow that one for both my Floetrol and my lotion mixtures. The only colors I don't match are the red, any red, blood red, iodine red, because they're so potent. You can get away with half of it. And onyx. I double up on my onyx and I half my reds.
Nice. Do you use heat when you do your lotion stuff?
I don't. So we all learn from our failures, and I heard about this and I was like, if I want a color to be fully saturated, I'll let it sit on the disc for 12 to 18 hours, something like that. That usually gets the color to where I want it to be. And I'm like, I heard about people starting to use heat on their lotion stencils, and I thought, okay, let's be more efficient with our time. Let's cut down the sit time of all this. Let's throw a heat lamp. I don't have a seating mat or anything. I just have a heat lamp. Let's just leave this lotion on top of this super domey destroyer under a heat lamp for, I don't know, we'll give it 10 minutes to see how it looks. This disc was 90% done at this point. So I put the lotion on, put it under the heat lamp, fucked around for half an hour, whatever, 10 minutes, came back, lotion all down the side of the disc. It melted my mixture. And ever since then, I swore off using heat with my lotion stencils. Yeah.
I haven't had any issues with it running like that with the excess heat. What lotion do you use?
Great question. So it is Queen Helena's. Okay. I don't know if you use that too. It is more watery for sure. And I don't know if this is a me problem. I don't know if other people actually have this, and I don't care enough to go around and ask people in Facebook groups or the Discord or anything. But I don't think it's a factor of the humidity down here. So I don't think it's an environmental issue. I think it's just quite literally the heat lamp just made it too hot and just made it runny. I don't know what else it could be. Which, again, doesn't make sense because you think the heat would take the liquid out of it to make it more...
Yeah. Well,
Solid. I don't know.
I find it also, fascinating that you bring up the environment, that I guess maybe people don't take that in consideration as much because you live in a very humid climate, so that can affect things versus someone that lives, say, in a desert. They're both hot, but
yeah,
it's the humidity that kills you.
I try to put a little bit of a scientific method to it. I got a couple guys down here that are pretty prolific dyers, and they use the sun. Cause Florida is fucking hot. Sun's beaming down all the time. And our garages, they're 100 degrees in the summer, 90 degrees in the winter. So like you have a pretty good environment to keep things heated. So your sit times aren't 24 hours for a lotion or anything anymore. Mm-hmm. But they don't have those problems that I do. And so it was like, if it's not the humidity or the heat of the garage or whatever, I don't know. I did something wrong and I got so upset about it that I just don't care to actually dig into what I screwed up.
Well, the variable is you.
I know.
But yeah, again, it's like people can give advice, but it's not going to be 100% exact based on your environment. And there's a lot of variables, and it is art. It's not science. So there is a little bit of, the intuition and art side to, figure out what works for you and what doesn't. I know you mentioned that you peel up the vinyl that you're going to be doing the color for. Do you ever do multiple colors at a time?
Oh yeah, I do. Great question. In fact, I'll pull up a couple that I have. So these are a couple that I bagged that I did for myself. And this one was actually the easiest to do it for. All these colors, not all of them, a lot of these colors are like full saturation for me. This green is meadow. Yellow is, what's the Procam's yellow that I use?
Dandelion?
Bright yellow. And this orange is clear orange with another coat of dye red on it to make it more orangey. So my point is that these lines are thick enough that I absolutely do pull up as many colors as I can that I don't risk the lotion touching to just get as much lotion on the disc as I can at one time to kind of help cut down the time.
Yeah.
So like on this one, for example, this has got so many colors on it. I could get away with pulling up all this yellow, pulling up the greens down here, pulling up a couple pinks and dyeing that. And then the next batch I could get away with getting all the blue out of the way. So just as much as I can, picking apart colors that run no risk of mixing when I put them on the disc.
Right on. Have you had any issues with your lotion drying out?
No, humidity. I don't think it's.
Damn.
I know, environment. You don't think about that, right? So
yeah.
So I do two things actually. I didn't really have an issue, but I did notice that the longer I would leave it on, the more it would dry out, obviously. But my problem wasn't as bad as what a lot of people describe, and I attributed that to the humidity. I do take an extra step with mine, and I mentioned that I leave my lotion mixes on the disc for 12 plus hours at full saturation. Anything that I leave on the disc over like 4 hours or so, I wet 2 paper towels and I wrap them around the perimeter of the disc, and then I put over like a cake pan or an ultimate over it to let it sit to help keep all that moisture in there.
Yeah. Okay. So you do that. I do the exact same thing as well because especially in winter here, boy, that just sucks the moisture out. And I've had issues where it would dry out and the dry areas were like super saturated.
Yep.
I did it on accident and it looked really cool. I'm like, yeah, I meant to do that.
That's the neat part with some of our mistakes is like, yeah, that's definitely something I absolutely meant to do that. Thanks for pointing it out. But I did only notice that, just like you said, some on these really detailed stencils where things would be, you'd have to drag a little bit of dye or lotion mixture over it or whatever. It'll dry out faster, obviously. So my issue wasn't as drastic as I'm sure what you have to deal with, but it was just enough for me to say, that's never happening again. How can I prevent that?
Yeah. So how do you apply the lotion to the disc?
I start with the most intricate areas of the stencil, because I can keep the vinyl on there of the bigger areas. And again, another environment issue. I don't know why. Some of my lotion mixtures are very watery now, and it's probably because I don't use them that much and they just sat and deteriorated. So, but I'm too lazy to make a new one. So I deal with it. So any of my watery colors or super tiny detail colors, I start with those. Pull up the colors from the vinyl and put them on, and then as I get to other colors where only the black part of the stencil is separating the colors, I take a toothpick and I push it over, and I feel like that's a combination of the best and cheapest way to move the medium over, because I just have a box of like 1,000 toothpicks, and for mixing my mixtures, a bunch of popsicle sticks, and just throw it on there. I don't know if many people use this tip, but this is something that, surprise, Keith taught me. I take a lighter over my lotion mixes in order to pop any of the bubbles that would be there. So because I did have, the first time I did a couple of these, like I would have little bubble splotches on a color that I want to like fully saturated for whatever reason. So it kind of messes up the evenness of the color. So between those two things, I just let it sit for however long I would need it to.
Right on. How, obviously it's just practice, but how did you figure out how long to get specific saturations?
Oh, great question. So I should have brought it up here. I have a test disc. I have an N of a Starfire that I use. And now it was the first one I used, but now it's littered with colors. Every single inch of this disc is taken up. I need to find another disc. But I will take these are typically lotion mixes that I'll test. I will take the lotion, put it on there, and I do this after every time I mix it, just in case my concentrations are never ever going to be perfect. Slightest differences will fuck up the color that you originally thought you would have, especially time of the lotion sitting there. Anyway, I'll take a blot the size like half my fingernail, and I'll put it on that disc, and I'll take a Q-tip and I'll time 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2.5 minutes, 5 minutes, and every up to depending on what I think the color I want, I'll do it for short periods, short intervals or long intervals, 1 hour, 5 hours, 6 hours, 10, 12, whatever. But I'll take a Q-tip up and I'll wipe up just a little bit of the dot every time, so I can see the difference the time has for the saturation on that disc. What I have learned in the recent year is that I weighed too heavily on there not being a difference in the plastics of each manufacturer. So glitches recently have and Cassis K1 has screwed me up a little bit because they take color so much faster than Star does. But anyway, I have a test disc that I blot little things on and wipe them up like at certain intervals to test saturation colors.
Nice. That's definitely a great idea. Because like you said, you do it every time because like you said, there can be inconsistencies and awesome. Have you tried any other dye techniques besides stencils and lotion coloring?
Great question. I have tried, and I tried to put my finger into everything. Half of this is to figure out what I like. The other half is, I mentioned this earlier, I like to be a part of the educational process of all this. Like, I figure out how things work for the most part, even if I don't like to do them. Just because I'm curious about all the little intricacies. I've tried, obviously, hot dip, stencil lotion painting, lotion beds, cell dyes, glue beds. What else am I forgetting? Shaving cream. Are there any others I'm forgetting?
I mean, literally anything you can think of can be something, but
that's true. I see people I've seen salt mixtures recently, and I'm like, I don't really like that effect, and it's nothing new. It's just like putting the medium doesn't really create anything other than the kind of texture for this. So I understand how it works. I saw somebody do noodles one time. And again, same concept. Like, I understand how the technique works. I don't really want to dive into that for any reason.
Yeah.
But I've done 2 or 3 shaving cream beds, and I can't stand them. I can't, just to be quite frank, dude. Getting the mound prepped for the dye to go on it is the most frustrating process I've ever experienced with this. Like, every time, like, I'd put a little bit more pressure into, like, kind of shaping it, it would just, like, take half the mound away and it'd be uneven again, and then I'd have to redo it. Anyway, not a fan of that. Being a perfectionist I am, I love the chaos of cell beds. They're almost, until people got into chameleon cells, they were unmanipulatable for the most part. You could put a burner disc in there to get a different set of colors or texture of the bed, but for the most part, flip cup, pour cup, traveling cup, do that. You could get different styles, but it was all the same chaos. So it was a good way for me to think less about the dye, if that makes sense. So cell beds, I love them. Every time I see one, especially like the Jay Kennedy has a couple, he crushes it every single time. And I know I'm missing a couple other names that I love, but I see those and I'm like, man, I wish I could do those. I can't. I can do, the basic cell beds, but I do love those. And finally, glue beds. I have found glue beds are really frustrating for me. A lot of people are really, really good at manipulating them. Like Christina says, is the geode one style that he really likes. That actually, I'm able to recreate it quite well. Still not as good as his, obviously. And I think Dyes by Emily, she has a couple the sand dollar style that she likes. I tried that once, and I will never ever be able to replicate that. I did a couple of the rift styles that I really liked, but it was not enough chaos and too much manipulating to get a good design. I found that I couldn't stand. So when I'm feeling frisky, I'll go with some cell beds so that I don't have to do that. It's no thinking. Just mix the colors, put them in, make sure you don't make brown, and run with it. Otherwise, it's stencils all the way.
So if you had to describe the style that you do, and someone saw your disc and be like, "Oh, that's a Spike's dyes," how would you describe it?
I've tried to put this into words, and I feel like it's a non-answer in a way, but extremely clean, clean and bold stencils is the best way that I can put words to it. And it's not a unique style by any means. It's nothing special, but I do it well. I do it without jerking myself off here. I do it well enough to where people, like, when they see my dyes, they go, "Holy fuck, that's awesome." But just keeping it clean, saturated colors, bold saturated colors on the dyes that I do.
Where do you typically get your artwork from?
Oh, all over. Ooh, this is kind of a controversial topic for some people. I'm an engineer by trade. This is quite literally my only artistic outlet. I can't sing, I can't dance, I can't draw. So I say all this to say that I can't get my designs anywhere else but from Google. I have another shameless plug. I have a Google Drive that I put together that has, so 777 dumped a bunch of designs onto the Dyers Facebook group 2 years ago or something like that. So I took a bunch of those and I started making a Google Drive out of all of his designs. And then I added a bunch of mine. I had a bunch of other people add theirs. So I've got like a repository of a bunch of just black and white stencils and some colored ones. But for the most part, somebody will come to me and is like, can you put this on a disc? And I'll be like, well, yeah, if there's a black and white image on Google of it, I certainly can. So I rip it like I'm burning CDs back in 2005.
Napster. Do you modify any of your artwork, or is it just kind of that's what you get?
Oh, I definitely modify it. So I to be fair, I do it as little as I can because it's extremely time consuming. But I do fit the needs of whatever anybody wants. I have gotten pretty good at going into like I use Inkscape now. I've tried a bunch of ways. Don't ever use Cricut Space if anybody's listening to this, by the way. Inkscape is my favorite right now. Before that, it was Silhouette Studio that I would use. But I will find myself quite often spending like 4 or 5 hours manipulating images that I found, putting 3, 4, 5 together, deleting that, adding this, that kind of thing. So I do edit them, to be fair, just not all the time.
Do you? I'm assuming you vectorize the images then.
Yes.
How do you do that?
Ooh, so this is a neat tip that I have found out that I don't think very many people know about still, and I'm trying to. Another thing, I'm not hiding this new thing that I found, and I didn't even do anything other than just find this. I use a couple AI things for work, and in the past, I have explored how AI can help us as dyers do things. I've like some people have found creating new pieces of black and white art through AI prompts or whatever. But about 2 months ago, I was thinking, man, I ought to look back into to see if anybody's ever found or created a good AI tool to create vector images out of black and white images, because we all have used, anybody that Stencil Dyes has used the trace feature in Silhouette Studio or Inkscape. They've used converters online to see if those work. They don't. They suck. We've tried every single way to take the manual process out of converting an image into a vector file. There is a website, and let me pull it up so I don't fuck up the name. Vectorizer.ai. So I found this website and I added a couple stencils in, and I compared those to what Inkscape's trace capabilities were, and dude, this tool is killer. All the Pokemon dyes that I've done that I'm sure some people have seen, I dumped all of those into this program, and every single one is so much cleaner than anything I could have ever gotten out of Inkscape. So I use that now 100% of the time. Okay, 95%. There, for some reason, there are a couple that don't work very well, and then I found myself back in the old days of spending a few hours tracing it. But that tool is incredible. I highly recommend anybody uses it.
Yeah, I tried it out probably about a month ago as well on something that I was having issues with in my normal processes, and I go, holy shit, this is amazing. Yes. Because I use the Adobe Illustrator trace, and it does an okay job, but the thing that I hate with that is, say you have like a sharp line, like an angle, trace kind of makes it smooth or rounded, and but yeah, that AI.
Yeah, mind blown immediately. So this was the other neat part. So I just talked about the Google Drive that I put together. I just dumped a bunch of images together, every single one of them PNG or JPEG. And a lot of people have gotten a lot of use out of that, which is exactly what I want to put it. Like, if you need that, PM me and I will give it to you, and I will encourage you to share it with other people. And I do that for everybody I send it to. But it got not monotonous. What's the word? Like, there was nothing new. Like, I'm trying to. People have given me so much in this community. I felt like that Google Drive was just a little bit that I could give back to everybody. But I was like trying to think, what's next? Like, I don't know what else I can do to help as many people as I've already helped. Turns out that this website Vectorizer has an API that now you have to pay for it, but when they were in their beta a month or two ago, you didn't have to pay for it. So I converted every single image in that drive and more that was on the Facebook group to a I used their API to just do batches of 50 to 100 at a time, and I converted over like 3,000 images into vector images. And I am still still resorting all of the images, but I'm about to redump that into the Google Drive. So the next step is now people don't have to actually trace it from the Google Drive anymore. They can just upload the SVG, which is like a hopefully a major help to anybody that ever uses that.
Yeah, I remember you posted that. I'm like, he's a genius. I like this guy using the API to do that. That was awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, I do have to admit I didn't write the API. I had to have a friend help me because that's a little over my head. I can code a little bit, but not that much.
That's what ChatGPT's for, man.
Okay, so this is actually it's a little off topic, but I just started exploring ChatGPT for my day job, which is kind of why didn't I think about that before, man? Like I've been using like multiple AI tools for a couple random jobs, tasks here and there. I don't know. Yeah, I should have used it for coding. Stupid.
I still think it's just like a basic thing that can only do word prompts, but it can do so much more that I have not explored all its capabilities. But I know there are artists that don't like AI for good reasons. But in my mind, AI is not going away. So why not embrace it and learn it so you're not left behind?
That's completely fair, and I do understand again, I don't think of myself as an artist. I'm really good at putting images that other people created onto a piece of plastic and coloring it in. It's not incredibly difficult, but I'm really, really good at it. But I can understand the frustration behind people who create art having they feel like their quality is watered down with the creation of AI, but at the same time, you got to adapt and use it. It's not going away. It'll never, ever go away. It's only going to get better.
Yeah. And the thing with AI is it's trained on already existing stuff. It doesn't necessarily make something that hasn't been made before. So it's just rehashing stuff in a million different ways, but it's not creating technically anything new per se. So there's still going to be needs for humans. So there's that.
Oh, yeah. Always. Especially when it fucks up the fingers.
Yeah, it's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
So with your disc dyeing, I guess you've been dyeing for 3 going on 4 years now, which you are pretty damn good at what you do. But is there anything that you would like to try or experiment with to learn something new or different or expand your capabilities?
I mentioned earlier I love the chaos of cells. But what I love more than anything is putting clean images on discs. And the next step of that is to learn how to shade. And I just can't do it. I'm so bad at it. I don't understand any step in knowing. I obviously I know how to shade. I know how to literally make the color darker on certain parts of the dye. But I don't know how to do that in a way that makes it look good. I'll shade. It's not good. I wish I could learn how to shade, and if I could do that, it would immediately step up everything that I could ever do with stencils. But I don't know if I'm ever going to figure it out.
It's just magic.
Yeah, right.
Well, I feel like with the Pokemon dyes, the shading isn't necessarily that important. Just the way that the style is.
That's why I fell in love with them. I didn't need to have. I'm a massive Pokemon fan if I'm going to do all these. But I didn't have to know shading. I just had to figure out saturation, which to me is infinitely easier to do. Which I hope most. If you don't know how to do it, talk to me and I'll tell you how to do it. It's no secret. But oh, dude, there were a couple of people that did I don't know the fellow's name. He's been putting just the black and white landscapes on mostly cast discs. He just did a Berg X that was incredible. But if I could just
happy little accidents.
Yes, I think that's what it is. Yes. Oh, they're so good. And every time I see one, I'm like, man, if only I could ever be like him.
Yeah, I got 2 of his discs. Hold on.
Oh boy, what a treat.
This one.
Oh, that one. Yes, I loved that one.
Yes.
I'm so jealous.
And my personal favorite.
Oh, you got that one? I know he made like 2 or 3 of them, but oh, I loved that one too.
How he does it in the shading,
that's art to me. Like, that is so good. The glare. All right, let's not keep it PG. The glare off the nipple, incredible. I could never do that. This shade, like, I understand the concept of shading. Obviously, the light is coming down from the top of that, and it's darker on the bottom, but the execution of it, I will never ever be able to do.
Yeah. Well, listen to his podcast because he explains how he does all that stuff, and that might inspire you.
Okay, well, I didn't even know he had a podcast, so now you have to plug his real quick.
Yeah. I forget what episode it is, but definitely check it out. And Jeff Burns from the Tin Man Dyes, he does really good shading. And he kind of explained a little bit of what he does as well. Yes.
I'm going to try my best. I have to be better. If that's the only thing I feel like that it would step up my game. There's no lotion. I understand lotion dyes, and I could work on creating those beds and executing those beds. Same things with cells. I've tried a couple of the Kennedy. I don't even know if he has a method for what he actually calls it, but it's his cell method. I've executed on a couple of those, and I could eventually figure it out. But shading, like, that's the epitome of like stepping up the stencil game that I love.
Yeah. Jay Kennedy had him on the podcast as well, so if you want to learn more about that. But yeah, I guess they're like the halo cells, I would call those.
Yeah. That's the only name that I could attribute to this style.
Well, I believe in you that you can do the shading.
I don't.
I do. You can do it. It's just practice and patience, which is I know. I don't have patience either, but yeah. Or don't. Whatever, that's cool.
I'm gonna give it a shot. I think so. As a part of my move, we're gonna be rinsing, and I have been banned from opening up any sort of dye equipment in a rental. I imagine that but my garage is a mess. Dye on the wall, on the floor. I think I actually got some on the ceiling once. So I get to spend quite a bit of time researching. I think it's how I'm gonna spend. I have to have that dye outlet, even though I'm not gonna actually be able to dye. So I think I'm gonna spend it doing a lot of researching and shadings up there.
Yeah, definitely listen to those podcasts and all. I think we're nearing 50 now. Jeez. But yeah, listen to all those and you'll get it. I know. I'm not great at it, and I'm still learning. I mean, I feel like everybody's still learning, and there's always going to be someone better than you.
Always. Oh, dude, I had to accept that so I have, again, hyper competitive. Keith was, when I first started, Keith Lempa was the epitome of stencil dyes. He had shading, he had color gradients, crushed those, multiple recovering stencils to add other backgrounds and everything. Like, I know I could execute on that. It would take time and a lot of effort, but I could do that. And then within the last year, there's been this explosion of people who are like just crushing the art game. Oh, dude, who's the dude that put the Wreck-It Ralph characters on the dies?
Is it Screwball Dies?
Screwball Dies. Yes. Oh my god, dude! I saw his and I was like, I can't be the best in the world at this. I at one point I legitimately thought if I had put just an obscene amount of hours, I could actually be the best in the world. Nope, not anymore. There's always going to be somebody better.
Yeah.
Always.
So you could either look at that as a good or bad, but don't let that discourage you.
No, so that was an interesting kind of topic for myself. Like that was a pretty big turning point in my understanding of where I stood in the hierarchy of dyes. I am a continuous improvement type of fella, always learning, always pushing myself, always trying something new. Even if I don't know how to execute on them, understand the concepts behind everything. So when I saw this explosion of people who were creating these incredible stencil dyes, I learned that I couldn't. There's again no way I'm ever going to get up there. But what I did learn is what I do well, and what I do well are the, albeit a little bit more basic stencil dyes with the bolder colors. But I'm pretty good at color matching, and I'm pretty good at executing on these flawlessly. So that's how I've tried to step up my game.
Yeah, absolutely. And that makes me think with the color matching. Do you mix any custom colors to get what you need?
All the time. So this is something that it was new to me when I first started doing it. But the Pokemon ones pushed me, and that was another massive reason why I wanted to do it. If I wanted to step up my game to what I was doing, I couldn't just do, that's red, I'm gonna do iodide poly red. That's blue, I'm gonna do bright blue, like that kind of thing. I wanted to actually get close to matching what the images looked like. That's what people would come to me with an image, I want that on a disc, and I went, I can't just put red as red, pink as pink. Like this, it's not gonna look the same. So the answer is I absolutely do. But I don't pre-mix colors. What I found is the best for my method is to put on one color for X amount of time and then put on another color. And instead of creating gold by mixing brown and yellow and putting it in a bottle, I'll do a layer of yellow and I'll add in brown and I'll keep it on there I have that test disc that I have. So I'll have two or three, when I layer colors, I'll have two or three lines that I'll go. So color A, I'll go from whatever intervals I want to. If it's short, 5 to an hour over 6 intervals, or if it's a long, I'll go like 2 to 12. And I will do that for brown, for example. I'll do a really saturated line of yellow and a really saturated line of brown, and have the other color be the intervals, and just see what gets me gold. I did that with a really good tan color that I love. I found out was from gunmetal and iodide brown. No, I'm sorry, buttercup and iodide brown. That's what it was. So much less goldish from being like bright yellow and brown, but a good tan color. So I have found that is the best way for me to execute on really good color matching. Yeah. And at the same time, if I typically I'll work with a little bit more diluted solutions because it gives me more margin of error. But putting on the color, and another tip that I'll give anybody out there when you're doing any sort of color matching or trying to get the right saturation, putting the color on there, checking the timer, and just every so often take a little Q-tip, wipe some off, and look at the color and make sure that's what you want. We all know you can never make a disc lighter, so worst case, you wash it off and you go, fuck, that's too light, put more color on, but constantly checking that.
No, that's a great tip. And I'm going to say what you're doing with mixing colors is probably the hardest thing to do.
Mm-hmm. It's not easy.
Harder than shading and harder than cells. It's like you need to understand colors and color theory. And yeah, it's I feel like a lot of experimenting in time and knowledge. Again, very difficult to do.
So I am going to say that all my dyes aren't exactly a me effort. I at the beginning of dyeing, I did not understand color theory at all. I definitely put some effort into it, and I have we have a metaphorical tip jar for me and my wife. So almost every single Pokemon dye, and just to reinforce what I'm thinking or to tell me I'm completely fucking wrong, I'll go, hey, what do you think of that color right there? I'm thinking a little bit of A, a little bit of B. And she'll go, no, it's not that one. You want to do a little bit of B and a little bit of C. So it is a team effort over here at the Spikes household.
That's awesome. So do they dye as well?
No, my wife, I tried to get her into it a little bit, and I thought it would be a cool hobby that we'd share, but she had no interest in it. She likes telling me where I fucked up and how to get the colors that I need. And she's don't get me wrong, she's extremely helpful, and I wouldn't be at the level of color matching that I am today without her. But it's just not her thing. She was like, nah, no, I don't have. It's just not sexy to me. Can't do it.
But again, the color stuff is really hard, and I find it more fascinating because you don't have like any art background, do you?
None.
Yeah. So,
I quite literally none.
So you're an engineer that knows color theory. If you can do it with help with your wife, anybody can do it.
So another really neat thing that I don't think I'm pushing the boundaries by any means, but I definitely think I'm up there on the skill level of color matching. And I guess like that's the best way to put it is color matching. It's a science. It's minimize the variables, which in my case is the saturation, the concentration of the colors in the mixture, and then just constantly testing. Have a blank disc to test what you think the color timeline is going to be, and then when you actually put it on the disc you're going to dye, which you could be, my test disc is star plastic K1 is not going to take dye as fast, or is going to take dye a lot faster. I know that I need to take 40 to 50% of my short timelines off of my star plastic timeline. So 5 minutes on a star disc, I want to probably put about 2 minutes on my K1. I'll test it at 2 minutes and I'll think that's what I want the color ought to be. Test it. That's it. Wash it. Next color. So it's strangely a very scientific approach to this little piece of art that I'm doing.
Which makes sense for you because you're like an engineer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's all fascinating. There's some questions that I'm going to ask that I'd like to ask, but where is your dye lab?
So I live in a townhouse. It is in my garage. I have a little like 1-car garage that I couldn't even fit my CRV into, so it's in my garage.
Does your garage get really hot?
Oh my god, dude, it is miserable. So to be fair, I love the heat. Mm-hmm. But I have to have like a little sweat rag out there because if I'm not paying attention, it'll just drip right onto the disc.
Again, environmental problems.
Yeah.
You don't want the sweat drip in your dye.
No.
Have you had any accidents and or fail stories?
Ooh, okay, so yes, we all have, right? But the fun ones are, oh god, dude. Okay, so I like to splurge. If you're watching the video, you'll see a couple Sexton Firebirds up here. And another thing that I recently, last Christmas, I splurged on. I got a pound bag. I bet you can't guess what kind of pound bag I got, but it was a Sexton pound bag. I love this thing, dude. And I still love it. It's an incredible bag. Had it for about 2 months. And so in my tiny little 1-car garage, I hung shelves up. So you walk in to the left wall, I hung up 3 or 4 shelves, just extra storage. And I have a little table and all my pegboard stuff. 3 feet from the edge of these shelves. I hot dip right next to the doorway and the edge of the table because that's the only outlet in the garage. The extension cord, like I could get a longer extension cord, but fuck that. So one day, anyway, I'm in the middle of hot dipping, and my wife says, "Hey, can you give me some paper towels?" So at the top of all the shelves are the paper towels, and I'm tall enough to reach up there and just touch the little bottom of it through the little wire shelf, and grab them and catch them and throw them in. So I do that. This time I fuck up, kind of bad, and of all the places this paper towel roll could hit when I drop it, is the handle of the disc that I'm hot dipping. And so my pound bag was not close by any means, across the garage, 12 feet ish away. That close to getting on it, so close to getting on it. Didn't get on my bag, thankfully. But maybe the ceiling and maybe the floor of my garage that my wife was less than pleased about. But that was the worst accident I ever had. I got purple dye everywhere, and it was one of the reasons I can't dye when I rent.
Wow.
The worst fail that I've had, though, I think so. I kind of like this question because I think that I fail on almost every dye that I do. There are times where I've accidentally pulled up a piece of vinyl that shouldn't be black, but I accidentally dye it black. Like I just did one recently where I fucked up like 2 fingernails that should have been kept white, but I dyed them black. I'll accidentally put blue where there should be red or some other stupid thing. But we talked about it earlier. It was the heat lamp one. I did a little ocean background turtle with a skull on it, something like that. I had just this green dye that should have been the turtle shell just running down through all the blue on my disc and all the white, and I think that was the worst fail that I've had, other than getting hot dip dye all over my garage and on the back of the disc that I was currently working on.
That for hot dipping, it's effective, but it's the most scary thing because you have a giant vat of dye. And, well, you know what happens when it spills. So that's like my biggest fear is I'm very careful when I'm moving. I'm like,
one day you are going to like, I have to tell everybody this. You're gonna spill it. One day you're gonna spill it. It's gonna be all in the grout on your tile or in the porous floor of your concrete garage, all over your brand new shoes. It's gonna happen. It's inevitable. You just accept it and do your best.
That's why I'm trying to move away from hot dipping and go for more of the denatured alcohol painting on stuff.
That was the most attractive aspect of it.
Yeah.
And why I wish so much I could have gotten that to work as well as I did. But I like the downtime of hot dips more than the time it cuts out from the denatured alcohol.
Yeah.
And man, even a worse aspect. So another pro tip. I don't know how you store your hot dip colors. I keep Gatorade bottles in my garage. And I have a oil funnel that I bought, Walmart or something. And that every time I get done hot dipping, I'll just get the oil funnel, pour the pan in, the oil pan, pour the pan of hot dip into the funnel in order to get it into the Gatorade bottle, and bring all that inside the house and wash it. There are so many steps to execution and cleanup of hot dip that you're gonna fuck up inevitably.
Yeah, I only do black, and I just leave it in. I use a pan, and I have a cover for it. And I just leave it in there. Don't want to move it. Don't want to pour it, because that's when accidents happen. Yes. All right. If you had to start disc dyeing over, knowing what you know now, is there anything that you would do differently?
This I actually really liked this question when I read it. I had to think about it for quite a hot minute because I'm trying to like, again, we had the fuck up. We all have the fuck ups that we kind of learn from. But I wouldn't start over by any means. I got to know the people that I know, and I got to know the things that I do because of everything that started from when I was a week after throwing my first piece of plastic. So no, I would absolutely keep everything the same. No question.
If you have to give tips to either beginners or seasoned veterans out there, what would it be?
So another question that I really, really loved, because this is something that I don't think that a lot of people understand. Every piece of information is out there for dyes. There's no one hub for all the information by any means, but somebody has published the answer to every single question. The best piece of advice I can give to anyone is to know how to ask the right question. And I say that with a teaching background. I haven't teach. I did tutor for a little bit, but coming from a family of teachers, that blindly asking why didn't this work is frustrating for the pros. Asking why another great example, one of my own personal issues. Why is my Caribbean blue creating this blur? I haven't asked the question yet publicly because I don't know what could be the actual answer. I don't think it's a hard water, soft water. I don't think it's environmental. It could be the dye powder, but I won't figure that out until I buy more powder and kind of test it. And I haven't done any of that, so I'm not really going to blindly ask anything. But when I first started dyeing, I took a massive dive into understanding why something couldn't work, why something would happen this way, why something wouldn't happen that way. And not only did that open my eyes to understanding techniques when I saw them, understanding how people executed on one thing over another, but that really, really helped me ask people the right questions so that they could help me without saying, okay, well, what kind of vinyl do you use? You know, I think, I'm trying to think of an example when I was talking to Keith. I guess the most memorable one was when I first was looking into stencil dyeing. I had done my one, and there were bleeds everywhere, and I tried to narrow down everything I could. I searched what I could on the Facebook group. I was using the right type of vinyl, or I was using the wrong type of vinyl. I switched it. I knew to do that. Transfer tape I was using worked. People had success with that. This was working. That was working. What could it have been? And I couldn't come up with the answer. So like my first message to Keith was, it was fucking 3 pages long or something. It was like, hey, I'm not trying to come in asking you to help me from scratch. Like I've done quite a bit of research. I can't figure it out. What am I doing wrong? He's like, immediately do this. And I went, I've never seen this before. All the research that I did, I never saw anybody say to do this thing. And when he told me to do this, I did a little bit more searching. Turned out there were a couple of things about it, but I wouldn't. That was my point. Is there's nothing to ever point me in that direction. So stop asking general questions and really try to get into the specifics of asking the right questions. Does that make sense?
No, that makes absolute sense, and that is fantastic advice. Rather than saying this didn't work, tell me why.
Right.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like you said, writing or asking the right questions and trying to do as much research as you can to figure out why it didn't work. I know not everybody's like that, but that It's definitely a good mindset to be in, not only just for disc dyeing, but just in life in general.
Yeah, so that kind of philosophy has carried me a very, very long way in life. And just like you said, not without shitting on anybody, not everybody really has that skill, and it is a little bit of a skill to understand, to have enough awareness to understand what you should and shouldn't do. But at the very minimum, don't just post on any Facebook group that says, I did this, it didn't work, what did I do wrong? It's like, no, I mean, like, take out the variables, anything, like, find out what you could have done wrong. Was the star plastic, or was it premium plastic? Did you buy iDye without the poly? Did you do this? Did you do that? Did you add heat? Like, who knows? But put a little bit of effort into your questions, people, please.
Yeah. At the very least, use the search function.
Yes. Oh my God, do the search function.
But one of my goals at the Dyers Guild is to try to have that centralized hub of vetted and good information that answers a lot of these questions and teaches people how to do things. And yeah, so definitely working on that.
Yeah. Which, by the way, what a respectful goal. I put about 3 hours into trying to do that and realized that it actually is thousands of hours of work.
Yeah.
It's such a massive undertaking. And so as somebody who's already used everything that you put what literally you've put together at this point and what it could be, I've already gotten massive help, so thank you for that. But I'm so excited to see where this is going to go. Yeah,
me too. It's like I wanted to do so much so far, but it's only been just over a year. But like I have a list of stuff that I want to do for questions and create all these videos. I want to do I'm really excited for the detectives to scientifically show certain things so there's no bias or whatever in it. It's like, no, this is the results based on this, those
I'm so looking forward to that, by the way.
Circumstances. But yeah, right now I'm just a one-man band and doing my darndest.
You're fucking crushing it. Keep it up.
I appreciate it. So, all right, we got to know you for the dyeing portion, but now we're going to get to know you on a personal level. First question, favorite faves. What is your favorite band or song?
So, I don't actually have a favorite band or song, and I like to jump around quite a bit. I'll spend 2 months listening to death metal, 2 months listening to classic rock, 2 months listening to a bunch of other random stuff, rap. I don't need techno music, like a bunch of random shit. But I always fall back on a couple favorites. Bands would be Rise Against, Dance Gavin Dance, and Wage War. I just always found myself circling back to those.
Nice.
Oh, I gotta throw in Mac Miller too.
Nice. Mm-hmm. What is your favorite food?
Favorite is I had to separate this one. Favorite dessert is cheesecake.
All right.
I can't never not have a good cheesecake if I go somewhere. Favorite food though, I struggle with this one a little bit, and I landed on a type of cuisine more than anything, but Italian food.
Okay.
I will eat literally anything Italian. There's no favorite. Every time I go to an Italian restaurant, I will try something new and I will fall in love with it.
Do you have a favorite restaurant that you like to go to?
There is I couldn't even tell you the name of it, but there's a little place that just opened up about 6 months ago by me. And a little hole in the wall place, but that's all you're getting out of me.
Nice. What is your favorite beverage?
So I landed on alcohol for this one. I drink mostly waters, maybe some Gatorades if I'm like out playing in the sun or whatever. But I am a massive fan of Kentucky and Moscow mules. And then I will always have a nice bottle of Scotch and bourbon in my cabinet.
Very nice. Very tasty stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So besides disc dyeing and disc golf, what other hobbies do you have?
So honestly, it's just a couple. Between collecting discs, playing, being a dad, dyeing discs to that part. I find the other hobby time that I have spent playing video games. So I mean, been gaming. I'm a millennial. Been gaming since I was little. I'm a massive fan of Halo. Always have been. Gears of War 2. Buddy and I recently got into Baldur's Gate 3. If you haven't played it, I would just recommend playing that. It's incredible. And Pokemon, between the games and the actual card game. I've gotten back into the card game in the recent last few months, so big fan of that.
Nice. Did you / do you collect Pokemon cards?
Dude, salty question. So I did collect them when I was little. I had a massive binder. In third grade, I was born in 93, so third grade would have been like 97, 98, something like that, maybe a little bit older, maybe early 2000s. Anyway, I had this binder, all my holographics. You know, you put the pretty fucking cards in the binder, you show them off to your friends, right? So that got stolen. And I stopped collecting them after that because I guess I got super salty about getting them taken away. I did get back into it since COVID, I guess. I did get back into collecting them, yes.
Yes, I was big into Pokemon as well. I displayed my cards on a wall like wallpaper.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes, I also had Beanie Babies, so there's that.
My grandmother. Oh my god, dude, my grandmother. This room's not very big, but you can just about see tubs and tubs of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, nerd. What do you do for a day job?
So I work for a company that designs and sells really custom air handling equipment for industrial sized applications. Not residential. Anything from college campuses to skyscrapers to hospitals, things like that. We take a not so custom set of equipment and make something really custom out of it. So for a long time, up until 3 years, I had designed and sold that equipment. So a sales engineer. A lot of traveling and getting in front of other engineers and selling what we do and designing the equipment that we sold as at a high level design, not down to the literal nuts and bolts of it, but big overview stuff. In the recent year, that has taken a turn into developing software and tools for our company to use, just to make our salespeople's lives easier. I got to know what I didn't like to do, and being lazy, I figured out the best way for me to stop doing all the repetitive stuff, which actually got me on the path of figuring out how to code, which has now gotten me on the path of managing a couple of people that we now develop tools for our salespeople to use.
Yes. The most productive person is a lazy person that doesn't want to work.
That's me. That's so me.
How can I make this easier for myself? That's awesome. Also, I feel like sales engineer is an oxymoron.
It is. Oh man, dude, our industry is so weird in a way. You have, in most industries, you have people that sell and you have people that engineer and design this stuff. You never ever want to mix those people. They're not the types. Our company that we have, when I first started working for them, I think we were doing like $5 million a year, which is not a lot in the HVAC industry at all. Maybe $3 million was my first year. Since then, the companies have split apart. They're now two companies, two sister companies. They're both doing 40 million a piece over the last. I'm about to be on 6 years, so it's been about 6 years. So exponential growth for us. But I attribute that all to the oxymoron of sales engineers. You have people that are so in tune with the customers because they're selling to them, but also designing the equipment at the same time. So you take out that extra, like the car salesman type of person that is just going to sell you to sell something.
Yeah.
But you actually have people who have a vested interest in the design of it too, because we're engineers. We don't just want to be salespeople.
Mm-hmm.
So our entire sales staff are engineers.
Again, that is very fascinating. I mean, I don't think every engineer could be a salesperson, but
no, to be fair, we're unicorns. To be quite frank, it's most of our engineering staff, like the actual people we have that are designing the nuts and bolts of these things, and bless their heart, if they ever listen to this, I hope they understand that I'm not shitting on them.
Yeah.
But I would never, ever, ever put them in front of a room of a bunch of middle-aged white dudes selling air handler equipment. Like, it's no.
Yeah. Well, that is awesome, and well, your job's going to bring you up to some fantastic disc golf courses in the area. So
let's go. I'm 20 minutes away from the preserve and Blue Ribbon Pines.
Nice.
Incredible.
If I'm ever up in the area, I will stop and say hi, because
Please do.
it's probably like 4 hours away from where I live, give or take. And I head up to the Superior Duluth area because my relatives are up there as well. So
awesome. Yes, please hit me up. That would be incredibly fun.
All right, next section. If you had to pick 3 discs to use and play any course anywhere for the rest of your life, what would those 3 be and why?
Ooh, okay. So, if you haven't found out yet, I'm a little bit of a Sexton whore.
Yeah, couldn't tell.
A Sexton Firebird, probably like a little bit of a Beat 2016 Firebird, is going to be the first one. Not quite as stable as a Firebird, so I can get it to flip up a little bit. But you need a stable 9-speed. Firebird fits that slot pretty well. Second one is going to be a Berg. When I first threw a Berg, I was like, I will never not have this disc in my bag. I can, everything under 150 feet, I'm going to be able to just do whatever I want with it. And I'll putt with this, so there's my putter right there. So between a overstable fairway driver and a putter, I think the only thing left would be an understable fairway driver, and I would put the Falk in there. I'd get a Glow Falk that would have, the Glow Falk that I have was this Ho one that I showed you. It's got just enough turn to where, like, if you put it on the right angle, it will come back, but if you don't, it'll keep the angle, and it's just money.
Nice.
Those 3.
Well, that's all you can use for the rest of your life. Good luck.
Oh, no.
And with the Firebirds, okay, you have people that drink boxed wine. It doesn't matter. Just a disc gets its disc. Then you have these more sophisticated people. Yes, the 2016 Firebird is the great vintage, or whatever.
So I guess I could have added this in earlier, but I kind of forgot to. One of the reasons I got into dyeing was because I fell in love with the Sexton Firebird. So the Firebird was the first disc that I had. My Velociraptor disc and my T-Rex disc that I mentioned earlier were Firebirds, Star Firebirds. And just like most people when they start out, they only know Innova. They don't know anybody else. Mm-hmm. And I love the Firebird. I love the name of it, and I love the stability of it. And then when I started following the pro scene, I learned that not only was there someone who had their name on a Firebird, he was the most fucking incredible human being, like that you could put your faith in. So I kind of quickly became a Sexton Firebird fan. And I wanted to buy some of his discs, and I was like, there's no way my wife's gonna let me buy a bunch of fucking Firebirds. She won't let me do it, period. So I got a little bit heavier into my dyeing quantities to help fund my Firebird habit, and it has been a fruitful endeavor for sure.
That's awesome. Nice. Yeah, that's What is your favorite Firebird that you have?
I have, let me pull it. Oh, it's right here, actually. So it's not special by any means, but I have this little purpley green stamp Firebird, and I'll take it out so you can get a better look of it. But it, I've designated it as my Hulk Firebird because it's a purple Firebird with a green stamp, so it's really really cool. It's unique too, and not like people have basics of most discs in the Firebird world, but nobody really has like a little hulky Firebird.
Nice. Where did you get those frames?
IKEA.
Really?
Yeah. So Michaels has some and IKEA has some too, but I like the IKEA ones better.
Huh. Nice.
Little 3D printed hangers too. I'm sure you've seen hangers around.
Yes. I sell some 3D printed ones as well.
Oh my gosh, shameless plug, round 3.
Hey! Next section, the perfect hole. What has been your favorite course and or hole that you've played so far?
Oh, okay, so that I've played?
Yes.
So I have it's my local course. I want to say that it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's got to be hole 9, and hole 9 on my local course. It's not a special shot by any means. We have a little lake, one lake in our entire course. There are 3 pin positions. It's anywhere from 220 feet to 310 feet away. But I'll tell you why it's one of my favorites. When I first started out being as competitive as I was, I wouldn't allow myself to not throw over the water. As much as I didn't want to lose the disc, I had my pride that I just couldn't let go of. I've lost a couple discs, but our community does a great job of getting them back. So I've gotten all but a couple back. But it's just, point being, it's a pretty stock hyzer shot that I didn't have when I first started playing. But when I actually put effort into my game, I learned how to pick the right stability, pick the right speed, throw the right amount of power and everything. To be fair, I still do park it, but I started parking it, and I was like, this is like the turning point of my personal level of playing. So again, nothing special, but it was a big, I did it moment. Yeah.
Do you have any courses that are on your bucket list?
Oh, so 3 of them. USDGC, haven't played it. I've been there for the last 3 or 4 years, but I'd never have the time to get up there when I could actually play it. I just need to know that I could get away with bogeying every hole in a single round. I don't think I can, but I think I could. Next one is, so I've played Blue Ribbon Pines twice now. Both were in a charity tournament that they have up there. And when they do that charity, they, instead of making it 18 holes, they make it 32 holes. So it's a bunch of par 3s. And they kind of tear up. They change it so there's no original like Blue Ribbon Pines hole. When I move up there, I'm going to get to play it. And it's only a matter of time at this point. But right next to that is the preserve. So between those 3 courses, those are on my bucket list.
Very cool. Mm-hmm. All right, next section that I have. If you could pick any pro disc golfer to hang out with and play around, who would it be and why?
I know. We talked about this. So we all know it's Nate Sexton. Yeah. So I talked a little bit about why I kind of fell into liking him. I love the Firebird. And then after learning that Nate was such a good, like a genuinely good person, of course, like most people in our pro scene is relatable in a lot of ways, but just, he was on Joe Maz, so I got to listen to him a lot. I got I got to know his personality a lot more. I just realized how well I feel like he would mesh with my personality. He's just a relatable guy by all means. And that is like, I don't even care if I have to play with him. I just want to sit down and have a beer with him at this point. And just talk to him about his, just what a wild ride it's been for him. But yeah, I just want to, the reason would be to just reinforce everything that I love about him already.
Nice. That's awesome. I got to meet him briefly, but yeah, he's definitely a nice dude.
Better be.
Yeah. Better not shatter my,
I know.
image of him that I had in my head.
They say never meet your heroes,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
Nate, if you're an asshole, I'm gonna be so upset, but I know you're not.
Yeah, that's not true. But all right, Mr. Spikes, I have learned a lot about your disc dyeing. I honestly did learn some stuff, and I like doing these because I always learn something, and got to know you a little bit on a personal level, and I like putting faces to dyes as well. Where can people find your work?
So just on Instagram, I don't have a website or anything I can plug in. But Spikes Disc Dying on Instagram. Find me there, PM me. I'm all over all over random Facebook pages too, under my Michael Spikes name. So either one.
And you're going to raffle off a disc as well?
I am. There's going to be a Pokemon disc I'm going to dye.
Fantastic. Can't show it because it's not made yet. But when this podcast gets released, you'll be able to enter to win this amazing disc. I know it's going to be amazing. I don't even have to see it because I know it's going to be amazing. But head to the Dyers Guild website, and you can enter to win for as little as $1. So this raffle will go live when the podcast is live and will be open for 2 weeks. And 100% of the proceeds will go back to Mr. Spikes to help fund his Nate Sexton habit.
That's exactly where it's going. I'm not ashamed.
Yes. So definitely check that out. Help support him. And Mr. Spikes, I'm going to call you that from now on.
It's a great last name, isn't it?
It really is. Thank you very much for being on. And until next time, guys, we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.